Welcome, friends, to my quick review of the Ultimate Termite Control Handbook and whether you should get this. I'm looking to build up a homestead, and what I decided to do is get this quick book that is about 120 pages with a lot of great information about termites. So, I'm looking to build up a homestead, and I'm kind of thinking, like, if I'm building everything out of concrete, things like, ceilings, roofs, things like this, they're a little bit tough to build up out of things that are not wood. So what I learned out of this book, well, that there's like 15 or 1800 different termite species. There's one that lives in the ground and makes little tunnels that goes and finds a little damp place and starts eating and starts colonizing. That's one type of termite. This book teaches you how to keep them away from your house. So, for example, if you have a dead tree stump or something like that, termites could start growing there, and then especially if there's a bunch of leaves that are leading up to your house, which is wood, they could get in there. So that's one example. Termites are in three stages in their life. They start with an egg that's laid by a queen. A queen lays thousands of eggs. Then they get into a thing called a nymph. A nymph can be one of three things eventually, based on the pheromone that the king and the queen send out through the colony. So the pheromone determines what the nymph turns into. So one is a worker guy. So one of these workers eats up the things and feeds the queen and feeds the what are called warrior soldier termites. Soldier termites have bigger tusks or something like that to protect the colony openings and things like this. One of the things that eats them is ants and birds and stuff like that. So that's one of the things that it could recommend, is to build up ant colonies around your homestead where it could keep them away. It also talks about, of course, the different chemical ways to get the termites out. So for me personally, I don't want to use zero chemicals. So one of the things I started thinking is I like to think outside the box. So there is a Japanese way of preserving wood. It's called sushiban, or Sakiyugi, something like that. What it involves is taking a piece of wood and actually burning it with a blowtorch. Because if a piece of wood has kind of like that char on it, it's not tasty for the termites, and most likely the termites would stay away from them. Another thing that is to not worry about is that OSB apparently termites don't eat. Probably something to do with the glue that's in there. OSB, that's used for standard sheathing and things like this. So if you have sheathing on the outside, or if you're using something like OSB called zip system, probably could have a air, water, and rain barrier. And then personally, what I would do, because in the new houses, what they do is they spray borate treatments for termites inside brand new houses. So what I was actually thinking is, for the framing on the inside, I would actually put a torch to that. So even if, let's say, I have an joist for the ceiling or the roof deck, I would just char it up so that if termites did get onto it, that I would be able to kind of keep them from eating it. So I don't think there's a guarantee with that, but there's apparently a temple in Japan that's been standing for like 700 years that have used the Sakiyugi or Sushiban. Put the comment down below what exactly the terminology is. Long story short, if you burn up the wood, char it on both sides. I would just do wood. Also, if you use cedar wood, or I think it's redwood or OSB, is materials that don't get eaten in it. And I'm probably going to use a thing called perfect block for building the walls to the outside. So apparently termites, they do like water and the soil to be nice and wet for them to get into your house. So apparently they don't eat through paint, but if there's like a little chip or a little crack, something like that, they could still get in and start a colony. Apparently you could electrocute them, you could EMF wave them, microwave them, chemical treatments. There's a whole bunch of different treatments. My goal is when I build up my property, that let's say if I have a chicken coop, I'm probably going to do the Sakiyugi method and burn up at least the structural walls, the joists, whatever other things, the structural lumber. I would probably burn it up, and I guess maybe use OSB and use the zip system for the outside and stuff like that to keep the structure standing more or less indefinitely. Also, apparently cedar wood, it smells good and it has some oils in it that are apparently not as tasty for termites. You do have to probably wear a mask when you're like handling and stuff like that, like sewing it, because you don't want the dust to get into your lungs and it could kind of like irritate your hands. My goal is to just use Sakiyugi everywhere. So when I'm going to be building up my homestead, I'm thinking I'm going to, for floor joists especially, I wouldn't want anything to happen to them, so I'll probably Sakiyugi them. And if you use an eye joist, the center part of the eye joist is actually OSB. So that's apparently termite resistant in the first place. And the top and the bottom might be regular cedar or other wood. I think termites like especially wet woods. So let's say if you have a wetness problem or a wetness issue of moisture getting into your house, they especially like those. So there's also, remember I was talking about the ones. So there's the worker, the warrior, and the ones that are the breeder ones. So those can actually grow wings and fly around in a swarm and start a new colony. A king and a queen get together, and then the first few workers start building up their house for them. So the king and the queen, I guess they're busy mating and creating more termites. The queen can actually live like 10 years. Sometimes when she can't produce enough termite babies, there could be a secondary queen. So this is why I like this book. It helps you understand your enemy so you could learn to control it. Obviously, in this quick video, I can't explain as much as having read the book. However, I'm just looking at all the different options that are available. And that's the conclusion I came up with. Use the perfect block or other concrete and stone wall systems, and perhaps on the inside Sakiyugi, or maybe for the outside stuff like that, Sakiyugi it. So OSB on the roof deck is okay, but if there's like a hole or something for it to get into the 2x6s or 2x8s or 2x10s that are holding the roof up, that's where the little flying termites could actually get in. So there's ones that are like wet wood, and there's ones that are like dry wood. So the ones that like dry wood could eat your furniture up and stuff like that. I'd rather solve the issue by not having the issue. So probably in my home, I'm gonna do Sakiyugi everywhere. Oh, and sheetrock. That paper on the sheetrock is cellulose, and that's what termites eat. They have bacteria to convert the actual energy from the pulp and the wood and the cellulose that they eat from, let's say, the wood or from the back of the sheetrock and stuff like that. They could burrow through the sheetrock and get to the joist. So I'm thinking of my joist, like the structural joist or 2x4 or 2x6 or 2x8 has been Sakiyugi'd, like has been burned up a little bit, instead of using chemical termite treatments, it's fun to play around with blowtorches, I think. Please be careful, have a hose around, so if you're doing it at home. Do it outdoors, obviously, because, you are playing around with a blowtorch. So I would probably do the structural stuff like that, and stuff that would keep anything from falling in. I've watched, there's a film called The Walking Unalive People, and in that film, in that show, in that TV series, they're always falling through floors and the rooftops. And I'm kind of actually thinking is that it's both wetness, the rot, and then the rot actually invites more termites to come in there. So perhaps if it's like a wet-liking termite, it might actually start living inside a wet wood more. So what could it be caused by? It could be caused by things like leaks inside your water systems. It could be bathrooms. You got to vent those. So you got to be thinking about the venting systems and stuff like that. And overall, what I'm thinking is that I want my homes and things that, let's say the home, I keep it for a little while, or if it gets passed on for generations, I want my future grandkids or great grandkids to be inheriting a home, a house that was purposefully built with love, that they would never have to worry about, oh, there's termite damage. So these 2x8s, 2x4s holding up entire floors are hollow on the inside, because that's what termites do. They eat the wood up on the inside. I've watched so many of these different videos. So the other people, what a lot of people do is they try to bait them. They try to use the different insecticides. However, I prefer an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. That's the way I believe it. So I think this book is kind of cool. Teaches you about the enemy that's out there, defending your home. I think it's really good. Proper site preparation, anatomies of a termite, stuff like that. Overall, I think it's a good book, quick read, easy to understand. So my conclusion is that there's certain woods that are more resistant. So apparently if you're using cedar, you really can't fail across the board. Even if you don't use the Sakiyugi, probably termites won't eat it. However, I would still Sakiyugi it just in case, just for additional protection. I never seen anybody in a home building video using Sakiyugi. If you've used Sakiyugi before of treating the wood that way, I think it also looks beautiful, and the treatment, the structure of the wood is still great, and it keeps insects and bugs, and it also waterproofs it. So if you have inside walls a place where mold and mildew can't grow in that wood, so technically it can't get that rotting wetness to it, so maybe it won't invite any termites in the first place. And the ones that are liking the dry wood termites probably wouldn't like it because of the Sakiyugi, and the wet liking ones, and the ones that are living underground, and the flying ones, non-flying ones, I don't care how they're getting to your house. I just don't want any to be getting into my house, and it also made me kind of paranoid. If I'm buying a secondhand used thing and I don't know to watch out for termite damage, and what kind of actual inspector, let's say if you hire an inspector to do it. Oh, by the way, I'm also reading this book called Bypass the Banks. Excellent book. So it talks about how we can make our own mortgage contracts between in the beginning it's very political. So first half of the book is a tough read, but then once you crack that nut and you get to the center juicy part, to the center of the Tootsie Roll, you're getting to a lot of good information. So if you're using bypass the bank method, you could actually skip all those inspections and stuff like that. But if you do skip the inspections, you might want to know about termites in case some of the joists and stuff like that could be leaking, And if you do wind up getting a house, you still have to pay for it. But you, instead of using the bank, you just, the previous owner puts a mortgage on your house. And over a 15-year period, you're paying them interest plus the principal, and it's not charging you like the bank does. With the bank, they make you jump through flaming hoops, and you have to like show the income, you have to do that, you have to get the inspection, blah 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 blah. Over in this book, it's the owner and the buyer discussing the stuff. So that's the book. I'll link you also. There's a version for Kindle also. I think it's like $7. This book is like $23. This one I think was like 10 or 15. Nice hardcover. I do recommend it because this is one of those things that nobody talks about. They're building these humongous, grand, beautiful structures. And I'm kind of like thinking, what's going to happen when a little flying termite flies in with the king and the queen, starts a new colony, and a half a year goes by later, and you have a termite colony that's compromising the structure of the home that your family is in. Your family is in there. You, your grandkids, your kids, or just you by yourself, or your dog, or your cat. Like, just seriously, that's ridiculous. So if you can know your enemy, know how to protect against it, and know how to build better, that's much better. This book does not talk about Sakiyugi. It does talk about using cedar and metal and concrete and stuff like that as a prevention method. A lot of different kind of like chemical treatments. I've seen in new homes, the first 4 feet, they do chemical treatments. So I hope you found this quick review of this termite book interesting. I hope you enjoyed it. Thumb up, subscribe, put your comment down below. I'll link you to both of these books for you to check them out on Amazon. And if you do use my link, it might give me a quick little kickback, which I appreciate at no cost to you. Have a wonderful day, and may you prosper may you have a lot of success with your home, and keep these little things out of there and keep it standing around for generations.